I think it's pretty clear after completing the main campaign that Spider-Man 2 is a step up from its predecessors and should be in conversation for the greatest comic book game ever made. My buddy Chris is here to talk all things Spider-Man 2, and this is going to be a spoiler-heavy video. Chris, you're more of a completionist than I am, so I'm going to ask, when the high of a great main campaign wears off and you jump into fully completing a game, do you feel any differently about that game after obtaining the platinum?
No. Not for this game, anyways. A lot of the Assassin's Creeds and stuff like that, yeah, I feel that way. But for this game, it was a lot of fun all the way through.
You just got worn down because it becomes about picking up feathers and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, you have that in Spider-Man 2 as well. You have to get the tech points and stuff like that to upgrade
the bots
gear.
and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't, because of the traversal in the city and everything like that, it's always fun.
Okay. All right, so let's just kind of dive right in. So what was your favorite moment of Spider-Man 2?
Probably when Peter initially gets the Venom powers and he goes Hulk mode. No pun intended, because Marvel. But just absolutely just pissed off and starts, I don't care what they say. That dude was straight up murdering people.
Yeah, no, there's no way that I think anyone who's watching or playing Spider-Man 2, you're like, dude, he's killing people. Like, straight up. He's like, straight up murdering people. I remember I was rescuing a Tombstone, right? And it was like a foundry or something like that in a little factory. And it's about to explode. And, like, it's like filling up with, and it's like getting really, really hot. And I was like knocking enemies down below. And I was like, as you're webbing them up against the wall, like there's like a whole escape scene with you, Harry, and Tombstone. I'm like, they're dead. I killed those people. Well, maybe I didn't kill them. The explosion did, but I contributed to them not being able to escape.
Okay, Batman.
Yeah, I know. I think my favorite part of Spider-Man 2 was probably when, like, they showed off kind of like how kind of unhinged and how crazy Kraven was when he killed Scorpion so easily. I thought that was such a brutal ass scene when he like lets him loose and Scorpion, does the right thing, right? Just tries to stab him in the shoulder. All he's thinking about is like, look, the poison's going to take over and I'm going to escape. And then he just like pulls the tail out, says, that's it. And then snaps it off and then stabs him with it. I was like, bro, this man means business. I think that was one of my favorite scenes. I was like, I did not expect it also for this game to be as violent as it was. Like, my second favorite scene is when Venom bites off Kraven's head.
Yeah, I was not expecting that.
Just for the shock value. Because I was like, this is teen, right? This is T for teen? Like, what the fuck? He just chopped his head and then he screamed and see all the blood and viscera in his mouth and stuff. I was like, oh my goodness. That was real.
He got his warrior's death.
What was so funny is that Kraven's like, thank you. I don't know if you want to thank him for that, my man. That was a bit too much. With talking about Kraven, so how did you feel about him as like the first half villain?
It's difficult to say. He grew on me. When you see him at first, you just think he's just a hulking mass of a dude, right? But he is human. He's clearly human. But as you go along and learn more about him and his background, what he's suffered through, he became a lot more interesting character for sure.
Yeah, it seemed like he just wanted to die, honestly, like a warrior's death, right? And he was really superhuman, obviously, because he, broke off Scorpion's mechanized tail. I thought, like, for the first half, they did a really good job of kind of building him up. But as you went through the different levels and you were starting to learn about, like, why Kraven was looking for the hunt, why he looked for the fight. And I don't know if you're familiar with the comics, but I think there has to be, I have to look it up though, there has to be a comic book story in which Kraven does have cancer. And he's literally just trying to, find that one last big hunt that'll take him out, And I didn't expect them to kill off 3 people of the Sinister Six and make them the Treacherous 3. Right? I didn't expect that at all. But I did appreciate the fact that Kraven was a nice primer, I was kind of hoping, I don't know if you thought about this, that he would become Venom. Because I thought, like, the physique made sense, right? He is a, really tall human. So if you just added the symbiote, he would become this, it looked like he would obviously become Venom. But instead, Harry becomes Venom. He grows like twice his size. What were your overall thoughts on Venom as a villain?
I mean, as Venom, when Harry became Venom, I stopped looking at Venom as Harry, if that makes sense. Whereas when the symbiote takes over Peter's always kind of there. Harry is completely gone. So it didn't really bother me. I loved him as a villain, is basically what I'm getting at. And I was able to see past, or rather, I didn't see Harry at all anymore. So
I think what was super interesting is that if you read for anyone who ever read the comics, like they actually had like all the different symbiotes, like all of them were actually represented in some of the enemies you fought. Like Riot was there, I know Phage was there, Scream was Mary Jane. I kind of, at first I was like, I wonder when Venom's going to show up, because they kept teasing him, right? And I like the fact that the symbiote was really, actually, as it's a parasite pretty much, it's actually helping Harry at first, and it seemed to be, Harry seemed to be pretty in control of his emotions and his rage and stuff like that. And I think, obviously Peter got stabbed, which was also a pretty shocking moment in the game, where he was like dying. It was a very convincing moment, by the way, when he got stabbed. He was like, walk with Mary Jane. He's like, I can't breathe, I can't see. And then, like, obviously the symbiote's like, ooh, superhuman. So
right.
I was kind of shocked at that. I love the fact that Tony Todd of Candyman fame, he is the voice of Venom. And yeah, I agree with you. I kind of like, once you saw like Venom take over Harry, that was it. Whoever you thought Harry was, like, he's just, gone. And it was interesting because Kurt Connors was straight up telling, he's like, no, he's done. Like, he's gone. Like, we can't save him. The only way to save Harry is to kill him. And I am also sad that Venom's gone, by the way. I don't know how you felt about that. Like, a one note, I mean, I know that we saw if you played through the side quest, you saw Cletus Cassidy, aka Carnage, walking off with his own symbiote. I was kind of like, oh, that's all we get from Venom? Like, he was amazing in this game. Like, he was actually kind of like an Avengers level threat, right? Which, if you've watched the Venom shows or whatever, or the Venom movies, they're like, he's always just kind of like a really strong character. But here, I mean, he literally took over a massive part of New York City. So I was kind of sad to just have him be there and be gone, because he had that amazing scene where he grew wings, and my jaw dropped. I was like, when the fuck did he do that, man?
Yeah, I basically put him akin to like Ultron, as far as level of threat. I don't know if you remember Ultron from
Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Avengers, right? Where he is providing a global threat at this point. So I don't know what we'll see, kind of what happens in the future, because obviously there's going to be a Spider-Man 3.
Yeah,
I'm sure Venom will make an appearance.
Hopefully,
they tend to. I would think so. I say that only because of the last scene with Osborn and Doc Ock.
Well, I think the G serum is the Goblin.
I agree with that. I'm just saying, as far as
it's also interesting, by the way, like the fact that we've gone through 2 Spider-Man games and there's been no Goblin.
I was surprised about that.
Yeah, very shocked, right? You kind of like pushed over other villains. I mean, they're all major. Like the Sinister Six was major, but I was kind of shocked that Venom came first. Like the Hobgoblin was like, the Goblin was really like the first villain you get to see in like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. And I was like, man, he's gonna show up eventually, because I mean, look how unhinged Norman was. Like, and he was like breaking shit when he was like smashing the cane, and I'm like, oh, he's really fucking strong. I was wondering like if he was already on the serum already,
I think so. Like I said, like I was going to say, these games tend to play the domino effect, right?
Right.
You topple one domino, and that's why I think Venom probably will make an appearance. They tend to bring back people based on that domino effect. In this case, it was Kraven, which brought back Scorpion and Sandman and all that kind of stuff. So. Or rather, Sandman brought Scorpion, but you get what I mean.
Sandman brought Kraven, and then...
Or Kraven, excuse me.
Well, actually, no, maybe Kraven targeted him, because he was looking for, like, people to fight. So he was looking for Sandman, then he saw the other Sinister 3, and he was like, all right, cool, I'll bring you Yeah, listen, the Vulture stood no chance, right? Like, can we be honest about that? It was a sidebar. Like, there was no
They
shot.
killed him off screen, didn't they? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I was shocked that, like, when he brought up the Shocker, right? He was like, this dude really fought me. And I was like, He was a fun boss fight in the first game, but I was kind of shocked that he was, no pun, that he was the most threatening to Kraven. Like, he was actually, like, trying to absolutely murder the dude. Which was...
Well, that's straight up because Spider-Man held back. There's a bunch of theories out there as far as like Spider-Man actually being the strongest Avenger.
No, he is. Like, so,
yeah.
there's a comic book, and sidebar, but there's a comic where Wilson Fisk takes a shot at Aunt May, and he goes to prison. Like, there's no... He just goes there, finds Fisk, beats the shit out of him, like, grabs Fisk by his, like, chest. I'm not saying, like, his clothes. He grabs him by his chest, picks it up, and says... This is that before what you saw, that was me holding back. You ever go at anyone I love again, and it is over for you.
Yeah.
So, and there's also the meme of, like, when Spider-Man's not joking or having a good time, like, if he goes silent, you're probably dead. Because when he was wearing his the Venom outfit, the Black Spider-Man, you're like, oh no, man had the energy of, like, the Black Air Forces. He was just like, everyone here is probably dead.
Right, which is why the symbiote attached to him, right?
Loved him.
And why I think it didn't try to attach to Kraven because of the cancer.
Oh, that's a good point.
So.
Okay, so let's talk about the major side quest of the game. I think it's an improvement over the first Spider-Man, even Miles Morales. I felt like there was more, kind of like there was more emotional impact with a lot of them. I was very shocked, especially with, like, the Sandman stuff, because I don't think they really innovated in terms of, like, what you were doing in the side quest, right? A lot of them were just kind of beat these enemies and then grab this crystal, or meet Yuri and infiltrate and beat up all these, enemies, and then eventually you meet, like, the Cletus Cassidy, who is eventually going to be Carnage because he grabs symbiote at the end. But I did like the fact that every one of the endings were, like, impactful, and some left threads open to, potential DLC. So what did you think?
Yeah, no, the Sandman ones, I didn't particularly care how you went about it. It was really repetitive, but the story, learning his background and stuff like that, was very interesting.
Yeah,
that's probably one of my favorite ones.
What'd you think of the Mysterio ones? That one's messed up. Damn.
Yeah, the Mysterio ones. Yeah, poor guy.
Like, that poor dude got played, and then the entire time you're like, oh. Well, like, maybe he... Because, like, with most games, when they show, like, a villain that's supposedly, quote-unquote, reformed, they always come back as, like, a villain. And in this case, he was kidnapped by his own people, by his manager and an assistant, and that people he trusted. And they were tricking Miles, and it was like, that's fucked up, like, the entire time. Because now I think all these people think about is that Mysterio is just this villain. I thought that was totally messed up.
I definitely liked the psychological mess with you type levels with Mysterio.
Those were a lot of fun.
Yeah, some of them were very frustrating. Like, hey, don't get hit. I'm like, what? Okay.
Well, at least you didn't, like, immediately fail if you got hit, right? But you're a completionist, so you were trying to go all for the gold. I was just like, bro, let me get bronze and let me get out of here. I just want to complete this, please. There were two side quests that I thought were, like, really handled well, really emotional. There's the Howard side quest, which was interesting because obviously people didn't like helping the pigeons in the first game, right? It was, once again, a lot of side quests in open world games are not exactly interesting at times, and they're not exactly engaging. But the way this one worked out was like, you're just flying around with these pigeons, find them a new home, and then I thought, like, when it began, when you were talking to Howard, and he was, like, talking about the 3 pillars, and he kept pointing at stuff, and it's like, yeah, man, just take them out, and you're like, okay. And then the music was too happy. Yeah. And then when he died at the end, I was like, come on, man. Because, like, they made that specifically a trophy, and I was like, dude, do you want people to just be sad when they're trying to help this man? And the other one was, I can't remember the dude's name, but he's the grandpa who, like, ended up getting lost. And you find him at the park, and I was like, come on, man. Like, those two were really well done because they're really basic. There's nothing too I would say like you're not really exerting too much energy doing it. You're not really defending. You're just kind of learning about these characters, and then I just thought like they were so well done because of the way how you talk to people. You know, the conversations felt authentic, and yeah, it was just really well done. I really like the fact that in this game they really tried to make the side quests, generally the endings of them, very meaningful.
Yeah, and in particular for like that one you're just mentioning, right, where he's tracking down the old man in the park, and he talks about his wife and stuff like that. At no point are you rushed, or you have to fight anything. Or it's kind of that nice little break from constantly swinging, constantly fighting. So it was a nice break.
But I will say like my favorite side quest was the Yuri one, right, where she's Wraith. I love those. I just thought it was because like they do a good job of being like really fun combat with stealth, and it's also really fun fighting Yuri. Like obviously you're holding back, right, because she is just a human. But like if at any point in time, because I was wearing the black suit when I was helping her, I was like, I could just snap your neck, lady. Like you need to relax with yelling at Spider-Man. But I love the fact that at the end, like Peter gets pinned up underneath the train, and then Cassidy grabs, you know, the Oscorp container, and he's just like, oh, this is what we're looking for. And I was like, oh shit, that might be Carnage, which would be interesting to see how far they actually push that, because Carnage is, you know, I would consider him like a mature villain in regards to like everything he does. So it'd be interesting to see how they push that stuff. Now, in Spider-Man, Chris, there were a couple of sequences with Mary Jane in which people hated. They were just completely like, these are awful. You know, I thought they were okay. They were serviceable moments. What did you think of the Mary Jane sequences this go around?
I liked everything except one tiny part.
Which one?
She took an arrow to the shoulder.
Yes, dude.
Shrugged that shit off. And I'm like,
Okay. I thought it like hit closer to like her heart and stuff like that. I was like, yo, she's a monster. What type of training with Sable are you going through to take that arrow to the shoulder?
Right. And I mean, overall, I think the sequences were fine. I think that they were extremely easy.
Yeah, 100%.
The awareness of the enemy was not a strong suit in this game.
No, yeah, they're pretty dumb. It was interesting. You know what was interesting is it reminded me of like a couple sequences from The Last of Us when you're kind of rolling through with Ellie. But yeah, she's super overpowered, and it was just a lot of fun. I think my favorite sequence was probably when she was running away from Peter. Like it was cool because you saw how the suit was controlling him even though he was unconscious, and then it became like a survival horror experience. Like, which tells me, by the way, Insomniac, if you want to go ahead and make a survival horror game, I'll sign up for it, because that alone was great. But I just love the fact that she's like super overpowered, and she's like beating the shit out of these like insanely trained characters, right? The hunters are these, you know, special ops type individuals, and she's just clapping all of them. Just pulling out the gun, shooting them in the back, shooting them in the head. And then I love the fact that it was at the end of the game, you get the Sonic like attachment to your gun. And I was like, so this became a third person shooter. Like,
yeah, I felt like I was playing Control.
Yeah, I was like, fantastic. Yeah, I don't know. I thought the sequences were fine. I thought it was really good. You know. Yeah,
definitely better than the first one.
Oh, 100%.
I don't hate, like you. I don't hate the first one, but they did improve upon it.
Oh, greatly.
And by the way, with the Insomniac making a like survival horror type thing, I was actually talking to a buddy of mine about that a few days ago, and we got on the topic of them making a noir style Dick Tracy.
Oh, like Spider-Man Noir. They could have done that.
Kind of. It's in the Dick Tracy world. I don't know if you remember Dick Tracy, the detective. And,
but like, if you've ever watched, if you ever read like Spider-Man Noir comic, go ahead and take a look at those. Okay. He's super fun. He uses a gun. Peter in that universe. Yeah, he pulls out the gun a little bit, get the Blickey out. So, what was, in your opinion, the biggest flaw of Spider-Man 2?
I would probably say the repetitiveness of the combat. It wasn't bad. I'm just saying, you know, as far as flaws go, things started looking the same. The enemies started doing the same thing.
Right.
And once you got the parry mechanic down, it was game over.
Yeah, I love. By the way, I love the inclusion of that mechanic. I think
Yeah.
the parry mechanic is fantastic, right? But you are, I think like unless you're playing at the higher difficulties, like the window is so open.
Yeah, it's very generous.
It's super generous, man, and like you're overpowered when you start using it. I don't know how you feel about this, but I felt like some of the devices that they kind of omitted. I think they omitted like one of the I can't remember what it's called, but it really felt like stealth was not as important in this game, right? It didn't really like matter because of how overpowered you were in terms of your abilities and then your gadgets.
I would say to counter a bit the harpoon thing, basically, where you can make your own web
Right.
lines.
Love that.
I did love that, and I started using stealth a lot more once I figured out kind of how it worked.
I don't know if you've seen the photo mode, like some of the photos people put up where they had like the web lines and they were hanging like villains and enemies from each of the web lines and then taking pictures, and I'm like, bro, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, it looks like Christmas ornaments.
Yeah, it looks like Christmas ornaments, but then all I have to do is like turn it like the background red or whatever, turn just change the hue a little bit, and it's like, oh my god, it's a horror movie. So Spider-Man's a murderer. I think like I agreed with that because you get to a certain point, and once again, open like the best thing about Spider-Man 2 is that it's not a long open world game. It's not. 15 hours, I think, maybe less than that for the main campaign. You really don't have to do any side content. There's really no stress on you at all. I still am not a fan of open world titles that force you to kill time. I don't know how you feel about that, but you do that a couple times here, and I was kind of annoyed a little bit because I'm like, all right, now I can do certain missions, but like I have always felt that kind of forcing the player to explore, when they don't really want to or anything, is just probably something I think they should change next game. Or, I don't know, maybe because I felt like for the side quest stuff, there wasn't actually a lot when you look back on it. Like there's a lot to do in the city. Like obviously you have all these different incidents and stuff that you can go ahead and clear up, but I just felt like the entire time I was like, man, there'd be multiple breaks. Well, I might as well just go rest for a little bit or something. How is everyone? I'm like, dude, I don't need to do that, man. I'm like getting into like, especially when you like crush a really big part of the story, and you're just like your adrenaline's high. It's like, man, I want to go do something like crazy. What's next? And they're like, yeah, let's go hang out. I'm like, man, killing me.
Yeah, no, I mean it didn't bother me too much, only because I already knew I was going for the 100% on this. I mean, I platinum the other two. I was going to platinum this one, so it didn't really bother me too much because I had to do that stuff anyways. But I definitely get what you're saying. For those who are non-completionists, it does kind of just all of a sudden, all right, stop it. You're gonna do stuff differently now, and that's not always cool, I guess.
I also felt like before they gave you the anti-Venom suit, that like Miles was clearly the more capable hero, right? Like I would switch to him for certain side quests, especially like when I was getting the platinum, because of just how powerful he was. Like some of his abilities, like being able to chain lightning, being able to have all these different AoE attacks that were like doing a ton of damage, was like amazing. And I felt like with Peter, you kind of had to use more gadgets, but once you got the anti-Venom suit, it was, they're now pretty much even keeled. But I was kind of sitting there like, okay, I'm gonna switch to Miles a lot because I really love like Miles as a kid. And I felt like he was, they were like, yeah, you can either do like the Venom punch or you can use chain lightning. You had all this stuff, and I was like, this is awesome. I was like, when is Peter gonna get some of this? And it literally takes like 3/4 of the game for you to get to that point where Martin Lee and Miles kind of reconcile, I guess. That's the best word. They just kind of, they're on better terms, quote unquote, or Miles reforms Martin Lee. And then you get the anti-Venom suit. It's like, yes, that was awesome. Now I can actually use Peter in, some of the more difficult side quests. Like, I think, when you get to, what are they called? Like the Venom Towers or the Venom, like, nests, right? Mm-hmm. Those are probably the ones where I was like, Miles is so much better suited for this. Yeah. Because if you did not have the anti-Venom suit on, dude, Peter was, like, struggling the entire time. I was like, oh,
I know.
Man.
The one underneath the the tunnel.
Yes, dude.
I didn't have the white symbiote suit yet, and that took me 2 or 3 tries. Even on the, I think I played on the normal difficulty, whatever it was, and that was still difficult.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, what did you think of the end? It's pretty obvious, and Insomniac has admitted this, that moving forward, Miles is going to be Spider-Man, right? And Peter deserves to be happy, by the way. Holy crap. This might be the first Spider-Man property where Peter actually might have like a really happy ending. Because if you have ever seen like his other stuff, the other work they have him in, like Ultimate Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, dude, there's just no chill with him. Like he gets beat up, gets shot, gets like grievously wounded. And like this was the first time where I was like, oh, holy shit, there's actually kind of a happy ending here. Like, what did you think about all that? Because the door's still open for Peter to come back, obviously, but you know.
Right, yeah. So I mean, first, right, Spider-Man in essence is a tragedy. It's kind of written that way. I mean, no matter what he does, no matter how powerful he gets,
just never enough.
Something's gonna go wrong.
He's Murphy's Law in human form.
Yeah. But as far as like the ending, right? I will say I definitely preferred the first game's ending. It was a lot more impactful, a lot more emotional. What with May on the deathbed type thing, you could feel that. In this one, it was kind of like, oh, I'm happy for you, but we'll see how long this lasts. Type thing.
That sounds like a threat from you when you say like that. You're happy now, you won't be happy later.
Well, it's just, that's just the way I see Spider-Man. It's like, that's why I like Spider-Man. That's why I like the Batmans and
you like the
and
suffering.
Stuff like that.
Damn, man, that's a new thing.
It's good storytelling.
This man played
honestly.
Arkham Knight. He was like, when does Bruce die?
Well, I mean, like, if you look at the Arkham series, right? I mean, you get Joker. You start to feel bad for him.
A little bit, but also he's like, he kind of, he deserved that shit, But with Peter, I was like, dude, like the guy clearly suffers. He feels inferior. He doesn't feel like he's like saving enough people. And that I thought the Martin Lee, that entire like quest line, that was fantastically written. Like I said, the main campaign, when it has its highs, and there's a lot of them. I don't think there was a part in this main campaign that I did not like. But like when you get to that Martin Lee section, and it's like you have to, you're watching Miles and trying to reform. He obviously worked his ass off to reform him. He's not going to kill him. He's sticking to his creed. And then Martin's like trying to show Miles that look, man, I'm changed. Like whatever you saw with Mr. Negative, that's not me. And then with Peter, with all that suffering, I was like, this is so well done, because obviously he was still grieving still. I don't know like how long it's been. I assume it's been like a year, maybe, since the first Spider-Man, since Miles Morales. But yeah, I was like, this is great. This is really good stuff. And I agree with you. I really I felt bad for Harry, dude. Like the dude like loses his mom, contracts this disease, is pretty much gonna die. His father, figures to get Kurt Connors, forces him to pretty much work and essentially keep him alive the entire time. And then he loses himself to Venom. Pretty much Peter, well, not Peter doesn't kill him, but yeah, Peter, Mary Jane, and Miles pretty much kill him, right, with the collider. And then Miles brings him back to life, but it doesn't matter because the dude's in a coma. And then his dad, if he initiates, that the Goblin Serum, is more than likely going to force Harry to be like, a tragic villain, who, is, I hate to say, I think he's gonna die in like Spider-Man 3, right? That's like the way it's trending.
Right.
Can you imagine like you have Norman in the first half and then Harry in the second half? Oh, dude, that'd be brutal, right?
Or they could do a Tobey Maguire type thing, type Spider-Man, where Green Goblin basically stabs himself, or Spider-Man essentially kills him, and Harry blames Peter.
My favorite quote of all time. I have nothing but Spider-Man.
Yep.
That's essentially what it was.
Bring James Franco in.
Yeah, but I don't know if we can do that, man. Anytime with news about that guy. But yeah, I think that definitely Spider-Man 2 is a step up. I think this is, and the reason why I wanted to talk about After the Platinum is because I really feel like a lot of games when you get into that completionist mindset, they tend to lose their luster because, you know, I really think it's because of the structure of the way a game's going to be platinumed, right? And Spider-Man 2 is kind of no different. Like, there's a lot of collectibles, a lot of doing like repetitive missions and stuff like that. You said you didn't feel that way about this game. Why was that? Like, what was like the big draw to Spider-Man 2 that kind of made you go, you know, it's not so bad doing all the kind of mundane activities?
One, it's a fairly easy platinum, probably 2, 3 out of 10, right?
Oh, probably easy. Yeah, it's like a 1, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've platinumed some difficult games in the past.
Assassin's Creed 3.
Assassin's Creed 3 was
that was
brutal in a different
Oh man.
But so one, the traversal throughout the city, I mean, it had one of the best fast travel things I've ever seen in my life.
Let's talk about that for a second, because legitimately, you and I agreed on this. We thought that Ghost of Tsushima had the best fast travel system ever, because you pretty much touched a point of interest and you could fast travel to it, right? In this game, once you unlock fast travel, and it doesn't take too much time, the moment you do it, you just select an area and Peter or Miles appear. That's amazing. That is simply amazing, and it's so fast.
It's fast. Now it's not pinpoint perfect, but it'll put you basically close to wherever your marker is. You don't have to select like a fast travel point or something like that. You could just, I want to go on this street. Boom, you go.
100%.
So that made things a lot easier. And like I was saying, you know, with those lulls that they kind of put you in, it was easy for me to kind of go and do stuff around that area or whatever it may be. You know, the biggest pain in the ass was the spider bots. Because there's no map markers for them. There's no, they send out this little beacon thing. And sometimes you're like, I hear it, but I don't see it. Oh, it's
Under a bridge.
Or half a mile above your head on top of one of the largest buildings.
Yeah. Oh, that one. What was it? The vulture one? I was like, where is this, man? I was like looking around, panicking. And I was like, oh my God, there it is. And I just like sprinted toward it.
Yeah. So, you know, that made it pretty seamless for me. You weren't doing a whole lot of backtracking like you do in a lot of other games, like Assassin's Creed. But it was... And it also, it didn't stop you. It level gated you a little bit in that, okay, you have to find the first spider bot continuing through the story in order to actually start looking for the other ones. That was kind of a pain in the ass, but as far as like going to all the areas on the map, you could do that right from the beginning of the game.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, and I know that this is Spider-Man 2, or is it the first Spider-Man Miles, is that when you're finding stuff, it's like clearly marked on your map, like what you haven't found yet. So like if you are a completionist, this is like the game to do it, because, you know, I've platinumed, I think the most difficult game I platinumed was probably Elden Ring, which wasn't that difficult to begin with, in terms of getting the platinum. But like, I felt like the more I played that game, the less I was like enjoying the game. Spider-Man 2, I think even like the other Spider-Man games, even with Ghost of Tsushima, it's essentially just like a seamless experience.
Yeah.
Where I'm not, you know, like you said, backtracking. I'm actually just kind of playing the game naturally, and you're probably gonna have like 70% of the trophies by the time you complete the game, if you just happen to play it. And then also when you're going through those lulls, you just go straight to your side quest, right? I agree with that, because like generally, you know, my brain goes, man, if I have to like struggle to go back or I have to do another replay of a game, play it on New Game Plus, do all this stuff, I'm like, man, I don't want to do all that. Like, let me be able to complete the platinum early on. And, you know, I remember Ghost of Tsushima, it was like, you didn't have to like exactly collect everything, just a certain percentage of it. And in Spider-Man, it's like, yeah, I have to collect everything, but like, you know, for the most part, I only use the fast travel to get the bots. Like, that's it. Most of the time, like, I feel like the swinging mechanic in this game, your traversal mechanics were so damn good and so, like, perfect. And it really shocks me that Insomniac was able to create or enhance what was already great. So, yeah, I was just wondering, because you've obviously completed more trophies than me. I'm like, man, I don't know how, like, you did that Spider-Man 2 luster from the main campaign that high? Did it ever just like, oh man, this game's, it's not like, did
No,
it ever
not really.
expose anything?
Yeah, no, not really. The big thing that I thank them for fixing was in Miles Morales. In order to get the platinum, you had to play New Game Plus.
Yep.
You had to beat it on New Game Plus, which once you know everything, I was able to speedrun that thing in, I don't know, 5-6 hours, something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was fairly quick. But still, that was 5 to 6 hours for one achievement.
Yeah.
That this game did not do that.
None of that at all. Which is pretty impressive, honestly. But like, there's like to kind of put a pin on this, like you cannot like the thing about Spider-Man 2 is that there's really not much to do after the platinum either. Just pointing that out to everyone. Yeah. You want to take pictures and stuff like that. That's cool, but like there's not much to do. So just everyone who's playing the game, I'm pretty sure who has platinum, I'm fairly sure it's a large percentage of people. But it just felt like this topic I always wanted to talk about, and I felt like Spider-Man 2 would be one of those games where the game is just great by itself. You don't ever have to platinum it. I get if you're not a completionist, but I just wondered, like, did that luster, did that sheen ever come off, or did your essentially the way you looked at the game, did it ever decrease a bit because you worked to the platinum? And you're saying no, and I'm saying no.
No.
Yeah. Also,
I think the game came out on the 20th, right? Yeah. And I think I got the platinum on like the 24th or 25th.
Yeah. So quick platinum.
It's good.
Quick platinum. It's a great game. All right, Chris. Any closing thoughts for me?
No.
Play the game.
Yeah, I mean, play the game. Similar to what I said about Alan Wake 2, I'm waiting for the DLC. I'm interested to see what they do and what direction they take that.
Give me carnage. That's all I'm asking for you. Once again, Chris, thanks for coming on. It's always good to have these discussions with you. So I'm trying to make more collaborative videos, so hopefully I get Brad in some of these, but these are going to be more contentious. If you have any ideas of any other games you want to talk about, just let me know. I am Ken from Pixelated Thoughts. If you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time.